Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, Love and Thunder, or what he calls his boys down under, Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
I'm not much of an actor, but I was Chris Hemsworth's butt double.
And we are short one Bruce Leslie this week again. Oh, my goodness. And this is what we call the era of, oh, Bruce loves his family. Gross, Bruce. He's out with his family doing some vacation stuff, and he'll be back with us in August. But Sean and I are here today, and we have we're gonna keep the fort all settled. Is that a thing?
We're gonna lock down the
fort.
Lock
down the fort. There you go. I'm trying to I don't know metaphors too awful well, but we got all this, and it's a better late than never as always. But due to COVID last week, we couldn't. Review Thor Love and Thunder, and that, of course, is what we're going to be doing this week and everything, and we're excited about that because, I don't know, a Taika Waititi Thor movie. Everybody was, kind of curious about the first one, then it landed, and everyone was gaga over it. This one seems to be doing decently well here at the box office. What do we think about it? Of course, we'll find all that good stuff out in not too awful long, but before we do that, we do want to say a giant thank you to the people who support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Of course, every month you get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, all of that fun stuff, but one of the most important jobs, of all the jobs in the world, you got garbage collector, brain surgeon, Patreon supporter who gets to choose the movie that we watch every single month. Those are in that order, no less.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got a lot of different movies to choose from here. These are all available streaming and stuff. And so as with all of these, we want you guys to vote on those. Voting will end Wednesday night or whenever I choose. So vote early, vote often, and all that kind of good stuff. But here are your choices. And it's secretly superhero movies is the theme here that Sean's come up with us for this Patreon selection. So here we go. We have The One starring Jet Li. That's over there on Netflix. Push, not Push by Sapphire. That's a different program. This is Push by Tubi, on Tubi rather. Tubi didn't
Push by Tubi, based on the novel by.
Based on the novel by. Okay, then we have Lazarus. That is on Amazon. Mortal, also on Amazon. And also on Amazon, which apparently has a lot of these secretly superhero movies, a movie called Parallel. Do you know what any of those things are about? Or are they just kind of, we know that they're tangentially superhero related? No,
two of them I know. One of them I have no idea. I have never heard of Lazarus, but you seem to know that movie.
I don't know if it was called Lazarus or Lazarus Pit or something like. Is it like a red cover? I don't know what the
man. I when I was looking through, because I had other ideas. I know that we've never seen the John Travolta Punisher movie.
Did we not really?
No, I looked through.
Wow.
I looked through it today. The Thomas Jane John Travolta Punisher from 2004. We didn't see.
Surprise.
We have reviewed both seasons of the Netflix show, and then episode 63 is the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, and then episode 69, nice, is the Punisher Warzone.
Yeah. Wow. Huh, son of a gun. We'll definitely have that at some point.
And there was weird things where I was like, oh man, that seems great. Jet Li has 3 movies from the 90s where it's well, that dude's actually a superhero. Black Mask, The One is one of them, but Black Mask is almost impossible to find. It's not on any streaming platform at all. The Black Mask 2 is. But that is also one of those things where it's streaming, but you have to pay for it. And I don't even know if Jet Li's in that movie.
I don't think he's in the sequel. I think it's somebody else.
And then, there's the weird ones like Jumper, because Jumper would be a great movie if they had a different lead.
Can I tell you what my experience with Jumper in the theater? For whatever weird reason, we decided to watch that after my buddy's wedding. So we went to his wedding, and we all day long, one of these long ones. And we're in this long way, and then we decided to go watch Jumper that night, I don't know, 10 o'clock or something, pretty late. And all I remember was fading in and out, waking up and falling asleep. I would wake up, I would watch 2 minutes ago, this sucks, and then fall back asleep.
The best part of that movie is Jamie Bell, who at this point now is a well-known monster, but he's great in that. He's the best part of that movie. In fact, they kind of should have made it about his character in the first place. Anyway, so Jumper wasn't available. I Am Number 4 wasn't available. Like I had all of these like, oh, these are secretly superhero movies kind of a thing. And so, just going off the top of the dome, I was like, oh man, these are really interesting things that we could go for, but they weren't on any streaming platform. So I was like, or you had to pay for it. And I am not paying any amount of money to see I Am Number 4 again. I'm just not going to do it.
It's like I saw it the one time. I don't I don't know that I'm going to pay for a separate one. So
right.
But we'd like to thank all of you guys. Vote early and everything over there on patreon.com/HMP. And we'd like to thank all of those guys for their continued support week after week here on the patreon.com/HMP. Appreciate it, guys. All right, let's run it up a flagpole, everybody. Here is the trailer for Thor Love and Thunder.
These hands were once used for battle. Now they're but humble tools for peace. I need to figure out exactly who I am. I want to choose my own path. Live in the moment. My superheroing days are over. Remember what I told you? You ever feel lost? Just look into the eyes of the people that you love. Not me. What? Just listening.
All right, that ended more abruptly than that. That was a trailer for Thor Love and Thunder. You know what time it is. Adams. All right, since Bruce is out, I've taken it upon myself to do the comic book connection this week, and here we go. The Gorgord Luchadors is a group exactly what it sounds like. Lovely lady luchadors wrestling in a pool of fake blood and body parts, all to benefit charities. Turns out that I stumbled into some interesting stuff this week while looking for Gore the God Butcher as I take the reins from Bruce and do my best to plagiarize from others, all while giving myself the utmost credit. Gore the God Butcher was born on a planet with no name, almost every day on the brink of starvation. He was taught to trust in the gods, but they never answered his prayers. At an early age, his mother and father died, leaving Gore to fend for himself in the harsh environment. Years later, he married and fathered children. However, most of them died. Gore's pregnant mate, Ara, was killed during an earthquake, and one by one, his children perished until he was left with one son, Agar. Very Job-like indeed, I think. When Agar was on the brink of death due to starvation, Gore sought to ease his suffering and told his son that they would soon reach a forest where they would never go hungry again. And if you saw this movie, you know that don't go so well. At some point during the 9th century, Gore arrived on Earth and killed a god from the Americas. The body washed up on the shores of Iceland, where it was found by Thor. At a later date, while accompanying a Viking raiding party to Russia, as one does, Thor found some Slavic gods dead. Thor was attacked by Gore, who nearly managed to kill Thor, but just before the killing blow, Thor conjured a lightning strike, shock of all shocks, which knocked them both out. Gore recovered and escaped to a cave where he once again fought Thor. Despite Gore attempting to torture Thor for information on the location of Asgard for 17 days, Thor held out long enough for his Viking worshippers to find him, distracting Gore long enough for Thor to recover and cut off Gore's right arm, believing that he had slayed him. There was a ton of other stuff in there, but if you've been listening to this show for any amount of time, you know I ain't reading all of that. And that's more of a Bruce job. My job is to crack wise and talk a lot when no one else is talking, making sure that this show goes to at least 1 hour. And this week, I wrote this. Well, I wrote some of it. I mean, I wrote more of it than I did last week. But there you have it, HMPers. Oh, wait, no. Wait, toss it to me. Adam, I hear you have some hilarious list that you put together. Do it, you suave so-and-so. Well, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Wait a minute. No, if that amazing comic connection wasn't enough, everybody, let me, Adam, tell everybody here about this forthcoming Thor movie, because this sucker's got everything. We've got Thor, Guns N' Roses, Guardians of the Galaxy, Guns N' Roses, Gore the God Butcher, Guns N' Roses. Jane came out of retirement, and when she saw the residual check for her quote-unquote performance in Endgame and was told it could be way bigger if she showed up on set, and she got a new lake house to pay for, so CGI muscles. We've also got Guns N' Roses. Valkyrie is back. Guns N' Roses. Korg is here, of course. Then there's some Guns N' Roses. You can't forget about the Asgardian players. They're back, so is Guns N' Roses. Old fat Russell Crowe, the only way you want him. Guns N' Roses. Child death, and worse than child death, Guns N' Roses. Bickering gods, a Guns N' Roses poster, kidnapped kids, a holophone that makes Star Wars look like the crap that it is, cancer, that's fun, and just like cancer, Guns N' Roses will infect your soul, leaving you devoid of feeling and smelling like an LA gutter. We've got a hammer that explodes and comes back together, and Roy effing Kent. This movie has everything.
He's here. He's there.
He's everywhere.
He's every effing where.
I saw Thor Thursday night at like 10 p.m. Over a week ago. I've kind of forgotten some of it, but you have just seen it fresh off the bat here. So coming in nice and fresh, what were your thoughts on Thor Love and Thunder? First of all, what were you kind of expecting with it, obviously?
Well, you need to keep in mind that, one, I am totally in the bag for Taika Waititi. I like every single movie he's ever directed, with the exception of Eagle versus Shark, which I feel like is a very Napoleon Dynamite-ish knockoff. Mm-hmm. But I know why he did it. It's because he had no money, and he was like, "Oh, hey, let's just go with what they'll make."
Yeah.
And so that's why he made that movie. It's a lesser Napoleon Dynamite, that movie. But anything after that, it's an original voice. It's surprising. It's always surprising, his movies. Whether it's a good surprise or a bad surprise, it's still a surprise.
Surprise! I've brought you a cake for your birthday, or surprised, I've pushed you in a puddle.
Exactly.
Either or, it's a surprise.
And I'm so in the bag for him. So I was very, very looking forward to this movie. This is the movie I was looking most forward to watch this year, because I love Thor Ragnarok so very much. So when I started hearing negative reviews for this movie, I was a little apprehensive. There was a little bit of me that was like, "Oh man, maybe he's gone." Maybe he's gone too Hollywood-y. Mm-hmm. But I am happy to report that while this movie is not for everyone, this is a movie for me. And I enjoyed it very much so indeed. It is not perfect. None of these Marvel movies are perfect anymore, with the exception of the last Spider-Man movie, which is kind of a perfect movie. It's sloppy at times. It's yet another movie where just the creativity is sparking off from everywhere. You know, you have a very contained box when you're directing Marvel movies, and somehow Taika finds ways to get around the outside, to hop out of those boxes. And he's done it again with this movie, in my opinion. I love... Here's the thing, right? Like when we were watching Chris Hemsworth last week and that God Awful thing, the thing that I kept saying is it is like a magic trick watching Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Whenever he's not Thor, it doesn't work as well. And so when he's there with the Guardians of the Galaxy and they're playing off each other, and it's very clear that Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth get along fabulously.
Yeah.
Because they work so well together. They have a dynamic chemistry. They are two people who are, they came up through the ranks together, really. So there's probably a mutual admiration society happening with those two guys. But when they are on screen together, it's magnetic. And there's something really, really fun about watching these two work together. And just like the time and the timing of of Taika's direction when those two guys are together. So when the Guardians end up leaving, I had a little bit of like a caution of, oh no, they're leaving already, kind of a thing. And it didn't, like, nervous is the wrong word, but it was one of those things where I was like, oh, this might be lesser than. But the way that Chris Hemsworth is as Thor is, there's something just so great about that actor in this role that you're never gonna find it again. You know, it's the same thing with Robert Downey Jr., where you're never going to have as good an Iron Man ever again.
Yeah, and like him and Jackman, it's like it's tough to get through like what has become like very iconic performances.
Right. And they are, unlike with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, you knew who that dude was long before that movie.
Oh yeah.
Whereas with Hemsworth, I only knew him as Kirk's dad from the first J.J. Abrams.
That was like
Star
one
Trek
of the
movie.
first couple of things he was in, just barely. Like, that's unbelievable to hear how he's just like, yeah, and all of a sudden I was there like 2 days later, and then boom, you've got a giant career now.
And so, you know, the great thing that happens, though, is that once the Guardians leave, it becomes Thor's movie. It doesn't become a Marvel movie. It's now just Thor's movie.
So let's hold it here for just a second, because I want to talk about a little bit previous to that and everything. Is you're right. When the Guardians end up leaving and stuff, it does feel disappointing. But I even think, at least for me, and maybe it's some sort of expectations or something, but I don't know that I had many, nothing specific to be sure, that it felt like the first, like, we'll call it 10 minutes up until whenever the Guardians leave, up until that point. So much of that felt like we ended the story in Endgame in a particular place, and the first 15 minutes of this movie is going to be us trying to kind of get out of that hole in a way.
Yeah.
And I understand it. I get it. And they want to get onto the story that they want to tell, but like, it feels like we're watching the previously on a thing that we weren't watching.
Yes.
And I wish I could have watched those episodes, as it were.
Right. I see what you're saying. You wanted to see the in-between stuff.
Well, right, because here's the thing. Thor become like, so at the end of Endgame and everything, we've got Fat Thor. He's lost all of his will and everything here. And literally they start this one out with like, I've been hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy and I decided to get my stuff together. Mm-hmm. Really? That's it? That's all the more that it felt like he doesn't
have it together.
Well, I just meant from like getting in shape and like having that be a thing, and to where it feels like the character had some sort of impetus to go down that road, other than the fact that somebody's calling him Tubby and the role requires him to get in shape again.
But that's the whole point, I think, is that the first when we first catch up with Thor, and you're right that and Marvel does this an awful lot, where okay, here's the new status quo. This is where we're at. And then 3 years later, the next movie comes out and it's resolved within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That happens an awful lot with Marvel. But with Thor specifically, the physical stuff, that's only half of his issue, because the other half is, and it's kind of the whole point of the movie, is that he needs to figure out who he is, like what's most important to him. Mm-hmm. And in those final scenes of this movie, he finally learns what is truly important to him. And I think for me, it's very effective. Being somebody who was, like kind of wandering around for a couple of years, once you figure out your purpose and what you're all about, it gives you, it makes you whole. Like I feel whole again, and I hadn't for a while. So like to have that happen in this movie, I understand that you probably want to see like the physical transformation happen. Probably it would be nice if it happened throughout the movie.
But give me also even if it's within the amount of time that it is, maybe just a little bit longer than that. But like, make me feel like he wanted to do that for a reason. Like it literally just felt like it was an aesthetics like thing, and surely that it was. But it's like, can't you wrap that up in a little something that makes it interesting, that makes it like, not for nothing, but like maybe makes a couple of big boys go, you know what, maybe I need to get my stuff together and start work it out. I don't know, like I feel like stuff like that could be interesting and poignant, but like it was just kind of felt like we're throwing out this joke. There you go, it's done now. He back to strong Thor. Good stuff. And I'm like, I listen, he's more handsome as muscly Thor. I'll give you that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being picky.
But I mean, they do give a reason. It's just a half baked reason.
Yeah, and like I said, it feels like it's gone. It goes by in such a manner that it feels like that they were just kind of like going, well, we have to do this. So there you go. They
kind of, and I know that Taika is inspired by modern writers, movie writers. So like, it's very Joss Whedon-y, the way that he connects this movie together, where you have another character doing a voiceover where it's almost like a fable of speaking about what's happening with Thor. Mm-hmm. And it's effective. I think it's effective storytelling, and it's a good way to cram all of your exposition in a nice tidy bow.
Oh, if you're going to do it, this is the way. This is at least from a getting it all out of the system way, 100%. This is the way to do it. I mean, like I said, I don't want you to take, an hour and a half to get to thin Thor, but you don't need to like, if you're going to do it and truncate it, this is the best way to do that. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I think, again, this is not a bulletproof movie. There are plenty of flaws in this thing. But for what they have to do, the problem that we're running up against with this movie is that Ragnarok was such a surprise to everyone, myself included, that you can't pull that trick off again. It's just not going to happen again. So you kind of have to manage your expectations. And to me, this movie does that quite well, where, look, we aren't going to use like indirect storytelling like we did in the last one, because we can't, and one of the things that I think goes totally overlooked with Thor Ragnarok is that it's not just the status quo of Thor that gets changed. It's the status quo of the Marvel universe that gets changed in Ragnarok. Mm-hmm. And in this movie, it's just about like paying that off and wrapping that up, because they had so much heavy lifting to do, and they just hit it with manipulation is the wrong word, but like hiding what they're actually doing in that movie, because it's so bloody funny. And in this one, it's more of like, we've got to wrap this up now, because now we got to get to the next phase of who Thor is going to be for the next bunch of movies. Yeah. And it's not something where, I don't think it's going to be something where we're not going to see anything like basically going against what I just said, which was that, in 15 minutes, the status quo is reverted back to. Oh, yeah. because I mean, think about this. At the end of Thor Ragnarok, there is a new, like, he's not using Mjolnir anymore. Mm-mm. Well, now he's using Mjolnir again. Like that, it's
yeah, by the end we're back to that. I do like, again, spoilers, you guys know this by this point, and I'm sure you turned out if you haven't. But like the kid at the end with Stormbreaker and everything while he's carrying the tiny one, I kind of love that. That's kind of cute.
That's pretty great. I got to tell you, the thing that impressed me most about this movie is the idea of the hammer being broken and the pieces work separately from each other and then come back together.
I thought that was super dope. I don't know if that's ever been done in books or anything, but man, oh man, I thought that was super neat.
That is so incredibly clever that it surprises the wrong word. I was kind of just nodding my head like, Very good job by you guys.
Yeah, it just all over the place, comes back together as one. So not only do you have this one thing that can go out, it can turn into a lot of tiny multiple things, and one will only assume that they'll have the same kind of power and everything that a full Thor hammer would, and that goes out and hits people and stuff, and then comes all back into one giant thing. That's awesome.
Such a neat idea. I gotta say, the biggest surprise of this movie to me is how much Natalie Portman liked being in this movie. She really,
I think she acted well in it. I don't know if she liked being in the movie. I felt like she liked acting in the movie, maybe.
But. I think she loved her time on this on this set. Yes, and the reason why is because she's invested in it. There's no investment in the first Thor or even the second Thor with her.
That's fair.
And you can kind of feel her cashing the checks and then, just like going through the motions because they didn't give her a whole lot to do. But in this one, she's got a lot to do, a whole lot to do.
Yeah, it's like you're Thor and you've got cancer. It's just like she's running the gamut.
She is, and she's doing it. And I thought she did a great job specifically because she wanted to be there, and I could feel it coming off of the movie.
I mean, like I said, it's been a minute since I've seen it, but now I'm kind of thinking back and just like kind of looking like, in my mind's eye, looking at her face and everything. I think you're right.
Yeah, she totally did, man, because they gave her something to do, something interesting. And it's fun to have that where, she's Thor and Thor's Thor, and then just having Thor be so weird around her about how she's also Thor.
It's whatever. I love awkward Thor. Awkward Thor is one of the best.
Oh, it's so good.
Good. I think that really goes well in something that like Hemsworth in his total career, not just the stuff that he's done with Taika and stuff. Just embracing that like I'm a handsome man, but I can also be like weird and awkward and stuff like that. Like again, it's one of those things that it endears you to him and just goes like, oh, you know what? Even if you were just like the pretty handsome boy and all over this muscles and stuff, you go. It's like, oh, look, he's awkward and weird and everything. You know what? I kind of like that guy. I'm okay with him. It's that Channing Tatum thing. When you know he can make fun of himself, you're kind of like, all right, he's okay.
Yeah, but Hemsworth as Thor is magic. Hemsworth as anything else is just okay.
It's all right. he's there. He'll get something else at some point where that'll be like the next thing. It'll happen at some point for him, I'm sure.
And while we're talking about performances, let's talk about there's basically three people who completely steal this movie. Mm-hmm. And that's really hard to do when Chris Hemsworth is just magicking it up everywhere. Mm-hmm. Christian Bale is incredible.
Christian Bale is in a better movie than everybody else in this film. He absolutely is. Like, he came to work. The rest of y'all are having a great time. Christian Bale is over here doing God knows what to get into this character. And oh my word, he's just killing it.
He is amazing in this movie. He is so good in this movie that nuts. I got mad that they killed him off. Because I want to see more from this character, and we're not going to because you're not getting Christian Bale back for anything. But my word, this is a very good movie in my head. This is a very good movie that turns into an even better movie every time Christian Bale's on screen.
I mean, to open it up with that scene and everything, and like his son, like what a heck of a way to open a Marvel film. It's just like, we open it up with child death. And you're like, jeez, I'm crow. Okay, I guess we're having a fun time over here in this comedy movie that this comedy director directed. Gee whiz. But he's so good in it. All of his like emotional parts and everything, the interactions with the other gods and stuff. It's just so good.
Yeah, agreed. And the other person who has the hardest job in this entire movie, and she pulls it off somehow, is Tessa Thompson. She has the absolute hardest job of anyone in this movie because she is not given a ton to do in this movie. Like, I mean, I know they make her the king of the new Asgard and stuff. Yeah. Bully, but that doesn't make for a very interesting character. And she has a lot of moments in this movie where she, like, this is so cringe inducing. I'm about to say this, but like she has a lot of you go girl moments in this.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And she somehow is able to walk that tightrope and still be great in this movie. And I love watching her be great because I think that she is one of the most underrated actresses in movies. And she is incredible in this with so very little to do, especially when you have your three other mains just having the most fun ever. And she is not having, like, maybe she had a great time on set, maybe, but she is not given a whole lot to do in this movie, and she's still terrific.
I agree with everything that you said except terrific. I like her in most everything that she's in. She did not do it for me in this one, and I think part of it is because they didn't give her enough to do, and I felt like her character was badly written in this episode.
It's terribly written, but that's the reason why I think that she did such an amazing job. Think of that moment where Jane has Mjolnir, and they're in that room, that meeting room. And are you ready to go? Yes, I'm ready to go. And it's Valkyrie and Jane going back and forth with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then they bump Mjolnir and Dagger, like fist bumping.
Mm-hmm.
If you put anyone else in that role, that is a moment that I'm almost checking out of the movie at that point.
Carrot Top is Valkyrie.
Whomever. You could put almost anyone
Daniel
in that role.
Day-Lewis is Valkyrie.
And she absolutely kills that moment. She and by kills it, I mean didn't make me hate
I mean
this
destroys it and made me want to spit on the ground in utter disgust.
She saves is the right word.
Yeah.
She saves this movie from itself by being such a good actress in this movie. And I think that she is totally unsung in this thing. Like she got all of the accolades in the last movie, which she should. She was great in that movie. But my word, she is the unsung hero of this film. Think of how terrible that joke is. That she has a little Bluetooth speaker.
Oh, that is a bad joke.
That is an awful joke.
It is
and
not good.
She again saves the movie from itself by being great in that moment, by adding to it and putting flourish into that moment. That is a terrible joke made okay because of her.
Okay, let's talk Korg.
Well, Korg, okay,
because
there is one other person to talk about, but we'll talk about Korg first.
So in Thor Ragnarok, Korg was our kind of like go-to breakout star. Everybody loved the Korg and everything. Yeah. So we're back with Korg. Korg is kind of our narrator here and everything, and he's still got a decent part inside the movie and everything. What are your thoughts on Korg last time versus this time? I feel like I've fallen a little out of love.
Well, and it happened during the Infinity Saga as well, where when he shows up in those movies, it's not nearly as great as it was in Ragnarok, because there's something about the character in Ragnarok that's different from any other time now, which is that in Ragnarok he's forced to be around Thor. And so, like there's a level of, what's the word I'm looking for here? There's a level of put upon with that character in Ragnarok that is no longer present.
You're right, because he kind of breaks free of that. That's kind of his arc at the end of Ragnarok, is he kind of breaks free of that put uponness, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And that character there, and I've heard interviews with Taika Waititi where he was saying that he came up with that idea for that character and having that voice from having been in New Zealand, and and the bouncers at bars are all these gigantic man mountain Samoan people, and they're all so unbelievably nice because like they have nothing to worry about. They're the biggest people in the world. They have nothing to worry about.
Who's going to mess with me? I'm a giant human being.
Right. And so, hey, man, and you know, like all of that stuff. And that's all gone by the two Infinity movies. And so now that we're, and now his choice is to just hang around Thor all the time. All of these things aren't nearly as fun.
Yeah.
I still like the character.
It's fine. Like it's just one of those things where you're just like, when you weren't so excited to see Korg on the screen all the time.
Not even close. And I got to tell you that now Marvel is in the same area that Star Wars is, where everyone gets murdered, but everyone's still alive.
Yeah.
And that is a massive problem. Because if there's no stakes, then who cares?
Yeah, you do get to that point, and I think if we get to that era, we are likely, because we've been doing this show for 8 years, and we've consistently, even before the show even existed, though, we've always heard just like, oh, the comic book movies, and they're getting oversaturated, and there's too much of them and everything, and there's just all of the same old stuff. It's just a lot of the same sort of movies and stuff. And maybe it's, I don't know. I feel like there's a small inkling that that's actually starting to become a kind of a little bit true now. It's not bad, not yet. But I feel like there's an avenue that we could go down that would certainly support that being, in the near future.
I know what you're saying here. And I think that I have figured it out, or maybe it was one of us when we were talking about this. Is that because of all of the Marvel television that's happening on Disney Plus, and because it hasn't all been great, plus you still have 3 Marvel movies to see in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And then you also have 4 television shows to see each year. And those television shows aren't spectacular all the time. And so you are going to get that drain happening, and it's going to happen more and more if they don't figure it out pretty soon. I think that they're going to do the thing that comic book companies figured out in the late 80s, which is, we need to have the big crossover event. Mm-hmm. And they've been doing that with like a character here and there.
And to a degree, who didn't think that was going to be at least, we'll call it a fourth. I'll call it a fourth. A fourth of this movie would be a little bit, and I know that would probably, quote unquote, degrade the Guardians brand or whatever the heck you want to kind of put up. But you could also, like, I don't know, talk to James Gunn and be like, what kind of little bits do you want in here that will then inform Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Stuff like that would be like really smart to put in, and it scratches my brain to know as to why they didn't. I don't know.
Well, I think because James Gunn is done with Marvel now.
Well, no, he's got Volume 3. He's got the holiday special coming up, and then Volume 3 after that. So, like, just to be like, hey, you want to keep it on?
Shot and done. Well, that's all done.
Well, I'm sure this was done before that, even, because that's how that works. But
yes,
he could have, like, I don't know. I'm throwing out like crazy ideas and stuff like that. But that's kind of my thought. Is just like it felt like we could have gotten more of that story there. But I'm complaining about the same thing again. So.
Well, what I'm getting to here is that I think what's going to end up happening, and it's just a guess. But I think where Marvel is headed is towards Secret War,
mm-hmm.
and that's just a guess.
Well, now we do have Secret Invasion coming up,
right? But that's just a TV show,
right? That's
not going to be like.
Oh, you mean like a biggie kind of thing?
I do. I think that there's going to be something like the big. They already did Infinity War, so I think the next thing is going to be Secret War.
Now that said. And you know the validity of all these statements and everything. Feige himself has said, at least, and maybe he's cribbing it the right way and saying no more Avengers movies. But it feels like, I'm not getting the exact quote here, but more or less the idea is no more big event type things like that, like your end games and.
That's
what he says. But I said, you know what that
I don't
means.
Believe him. I think that he's a liar.
I do too. But
it's coming to something here, and we're going to figure out what that is fairly soon. Also, this is now the 3rd movie fourth movie where we've seen Celestials. Fourth movie, because you got the Guardians. They've shown up in the Guardians movies.
Mhm.
They've shown up in the Eternals.
Yeah.
They showed up in
The only cool thing about the Eternals is them showing up and you're like, ooh, and then they're like, oh, but the rest of the movie that surrounds that, crud.
And also, how come no one has brought up that there's an Eternal just like stone and dead in the ocean? That has never come up again.
Who knows? They just, listen. I'm sure most of the people over at Marvel just want to pretend like that movie never really happened.
They're making another one.
Are they making? Why?
Because everyone loves the Eternals.
I'm just like, but do they though? I don't know that the box office proves that point out very well.
Look, it's your favorite movie. It's my favorite movie. Everyone loves the Eternals.
Put it on my headstone. If he did anything, he loved the Eternals. He eternally loved the Eternals. That's why this flame is here on account of.
So the last actor that I want to talk about who has done just the best is Russell Crowe in this movie. Good God Almighty.
I had no idea he was in this film. No clue.
He absolutely went for it. He was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna talk like the Pope. Like, it is amazing.
Oh, why you know what do it is?
It is amazing the job he does in this movie. You know, Russell Crowe in the last couple of years here, I don't know if it's a reformation project or something that's been happening with him, but in the last couple of years, even in bad movies like that terrible Tom Cruise Mummy movie, he's the best part of that movie. And so you have like there's something really great about Fat Russell Crowe. Like, I love Fat Russell Crowe.
And he's always got like he had like early some Fat Russell Crowe, or if you remember The Insider, getting
that's right,
getting chubby for that role here and everything. So we were looking at his future a little later on and everything. But he's
The Good Guys.
Yeah,
that's a great movie. He's in that, and he's Fat Russell Crowe in that.
But like he's in it. I love the fact that, and of course he was in Gladiator, so you have that kind of fun, like almost little juxtaposition there and everything. I love that he's fat and he's got the chest plate and everything that's all buff. He's got the big buff gold chest plate and everything while he's just spilling out the sides of it and everything. I love the hot ladies that are behind him all of the time. His little skirt dance walking through. It's just
that was literally the best part.
It was like, oh my God, Russell Crowe is just having a blast doing this movie.
Oh my God, we haven't even gotten to the part that makes me laugh every single time it happens. And it happens like 25 times in the movie, which is the screaming goats.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even write that into the breakdown, and I don't know why. That wore on me rather quick.
Oh, did it?
Rather quick. I'm like, okay, that's a joke, and we are hammering that bad boy into the ground until it is dead and buried, and then we dug it up and burned it.
Oh, I love it so much. To me, because they don't, when they get to like this, like the second half of the movie, they only do it once or twice, but it's perfect.
I felt like they could have spaced it out a little bit more. Like if you'd have cut the goat jokes in half, I think I might have appreciated it more. I felt like they went back to the just like, I don't know. I love a running gag, but sometimes it feels, I don't know. It just didn't hit me like I wish that it would have.
Adam Portress loves a runner.
Captain Picky over here today. I don't want to sit here and like, maybe it sounds to everybody that I really didn't like this movie, and I didn't hate it by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't want everybody to. I have nits with which to pick, but overall, not nearly as bad as it might sound coming from me this episode.
And I know that Sean Gunn gets a lot of hate for some reason. I guess because he's the director's brother or whatever, but. Man, it was so great to see him in this. I was so happy when he shows up.
Yeah, it was
I didn't expect to see him.
Little cameo. I love it.
It is, and I totally didn't expect to see him. It was really terrific.
How much you figure Vin Diesel got paid?
I don't know what it is, but what I can tell you is that they, at least for the Guardians movies, he only says the line once.
That's not You think that's true? Because I have video evidence that says otherwise.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because that was the story coming out of the first one, is that he had only said it one time.
I think that was all myth and legend, because there were videos of him on the internet from the first Guardians doing not only Groot but also Spanish Groot.
Oh, really?
Yo soy Groot. He would just he'd go through and do all of them. Like he was doing all of this stuff. So you're just like, all right, well, I mean, but he looked like he was in the studio when he was like, and I'm not talking like the voiceover studio. I'm talking about the rap studio. He's got glasses on. He's holding a piece of paper. What the hell are you doing holding a piece of paper for saying I am Groot? Get out of here with that nonsense. And why are you wearing sunglasses indoors? Why is your mic upside down? You're not in a padded booth. What is this? Why are you here right now?
I'm just going to say it. I think it's his best role.
Oh, I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
Oh, wait a minute. No. He's the Iron Giant. He's the best. The Iron Giant is his best role.
He was good in Boiler Room because it was
Get out of here.
It was hot seconds. He wasn't in it long. That's why he's good. It was short. If he'd have been in that movie longer, it would have been worse. And
what's the one where he's a lawyer?
I'm trying to think of the name of it, but he has hair. I think that's a Sidney Lumet film. Something about guilty in the title, I think. I don't know at the top of my head. He did his early student film was probably it's definitely his best thing that he did because
it's the thing that made him famous.
Yeah, it was all about that, and that was the thing that Spielberg saw there. He put him in Saving Private Ryan and all that kind of stuff. Bradley Cooper, same thing. I wonder how much he got paid for. But I feel like maybe they were doing some Guardians of the Galaxy voiceover or something, and they were just like, shove him in here. Like the same thing they did with all the what ifs when they got everybody for those 10th anniversary photos. That's my guess, is they took them off and be like, hey, 10 minutes, read these lines real fast. It doesn't matter how well you read them, just read them. We're going to throw some animation on it in about 2 years.
Find me guilty.
That's it. I knew there's some guilty thing in there.
Find me guilty. But the difference between what Vin Diesel's doing and what Bradley Cooper is doing is that
Bradley Cooper's doing words at least.
And also it's a performance. Like I forget that Bradley Cooper does the voice of that raccoon.
You know what? And honestly, it's true. And Bradley Cooper, and I like him as an actor, but his range isn't super crazy wide, but he's got enough in there that every now and then he'll remind you oh, this guy can turn on the chameleon if he kind of needs to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, did we give Drax a line? Did Drax have one line in this? I think.
He does. Yes.
I think it's just one. I was trying to I'm trying to think. Did everybody get a little round, a little something to say in there? But
they do. The only one who isn't there is Gamora.
Oh yeah, obviously. What with the death and all.
Yeah.
Okay, and I clearly mentioned it in the rundown. Who is doing the music licensing for this, and why do they have such a love for the Guns N' Roses?
I don't know. And it's, the kid's got a t-shirt. He wants to be named Axel. There's something happening there, and I'm not exactly sure what all it is. And
not for nothing. I don't, it's obviously overplayed and everything, but I don't hate Guns N' Roses by any stretch, but sometimes it's a little much. And I feel like there's so many great and cool and interesting songs, and James Gunn is clearly proven that in his movies. Throw out some interesting choices instead of just it was honestly, if you bought this on an album and everything, you might as well just call it a Guns N' Roses Greatest Hits album. Because they're all there. It's Paradise City, November Rain is on there. They're all there. It's bad, dude. It's way too many, and it just feels like
Child of Mine.
It feels like Axel's probably out there with rolling discounts or something out there, some Groupons for music licensing or something. I don't know what's going on.
Maybe he's got to get another new face.
Yes. Oh boy, what a fun time that is. All right, before we get to our review here and everything, it is time for us to oh, wait a minute. I hope this is the right nope, that's the I don't know. I thought I had a male one.
Yeah, you said that you
I thought I did. There it is. Okay. I was looking for the jingle.
Bale's here.
The reason is it's been so darn long since we had an email. This one comes to us from a good buddy and longtime executive producer of this here show at the highest level, Tim. Tim wrote us this email. Tim writes, "This lands somewhere around the high Damian Wayne or low Tim Drake for me. I had a really good time in the theater overall, eating popcorn, being with friends, and having some laughs. But the movie really didn't have much to stick to the wall for me. It didn't have the freshness of Ragnarok. It kind of underutilized Christian Bale, and they should have saved Sweet Child of Mine Needle Drop until the end. Plus, Chris Hemsworth's charm as Thor is kind of wearing thin. I was hoping for more as Guardians of the Galaxy, but all their scenes did was nerf their characters, which isn't cool with me. I'm a little confused about the Taika Waititi-ness making its way into multiple franchises. It makes what he does a little less special, but he is special when he's this ubiquitous. So obviously him just being everywhere. I'm sure others like it much better than I did. Not that I didn't. I'm happy for people whom this is their jam. As it's a real treat in a lot of ways. The mid-credits capper was the high point for me, as it was really nice to see a superhero movie that wasn't 3 hours long. All the best, Tim, aka the Longhauler."
Tim, you're right about everything. I mean, everything that you just said is correct. I still like the movie a lot. But it's not Ragnarok. It's the sequel to Ragnarok, and that's okay. I really did have a great time seeing this.
Let me ask you this, though, because I kind of wanted to address this, and I'm glad he did it here, and I kind of wanted to wait off for it. But So Taika's next big project, at least as far as we know, he's got so many in the hopper, as you're oft want to do when you're kind of killing it in Hollywood. The to-do list starts piling up a little bit. But Taika's all off to do a Star Wars movie at some point.
Yeah.
Does it feel like? And I kind of agree with him here. I feel like he may be taking his voice and like kind of stretching it. Maybe not too far. I don't know. I just, like I said, it's kind of a. I don't want to make it sound like I'm dogging the guy, because I'm certainly not. But like maybe just more choosy of the project, because this doesn't feel like, okay. For example, when I compare like the movies from like just a quality standpoint and maybe from comedy, I guess we'll because he's a more comedic director. Take this versus What We Do in the Shadows. It's like What We Do in the Shadows is so well written, is very competently directed and everything, and is just hilarious beginning to end. And like it feels like, and now he's not like the sole writer of like the majority of his stuff. When you really look through Taika's work, I think I think he writes a lot less than people imagine that he actually does. I certainly believe that he brings a lot of his voice to those movies and stuff, but maybe not enough to have like a complete, actual writing credit or whatever, because, you got to have a certain amount for all that kind of stuff to take place. But I don't, maybe he's kind of, it feels like he might be directing things a little bit more and kind of going off of other people's stuff and maybe stepping away from a little bit more of the things that make him uniquely him and kind of make those Taika things jump out at you a little bit more. Does any of this make sense?
So let me go backwards for a second, because you were saying that he always has a writing partner, and he does, because he is somebody who is not great with story. He's great with the little things. He's great with the special things. Like, it would not surprise me at all to learn that it was his idea, that Mjolnir is in little pieces. He is not somebody who is a structure guy. And so he needs somebody who has that as his writing partner. Just kind of to focus him. And he is very aware of that too. And so when he's going into something like Star Wars, for example, he is going to not be able to be nearly as Taika as this movie is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still going to be flourishes there, because you're not going to be able to help it. It's just who he is.
Yeah, I think you should have some of that in there. But I wouldn't mind that Star Wars being a more of, like you said, obviously there's going to be a little bit of pepper in there, but more or less a very big departure for him, but keeping style and everything, and of course the things that make him him. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that is what we're probably going to see with his Star Wars is like what Multiverse of Madness was for Sam Raimi, where you can still tell that movie was totally directed by Raimi, but that's not a Raimi movie.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's probably what's going to happen with Taika with Star Wars, is my guess. If he doesn't get fired from the show.
Because you never know these days. Who's to say?
You never know.
All right. Well, now it's time to find out how this fourth Thor movie. I can't believe we have 4 Thor movies now.
It's so crazy, man.
Isn't that a weird thought?
We're about to have 3 Ant-Man movies. We have 4 Thor movies. What?
What planet are we living on? But how in the world does this 4th Thor movie relate back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone?
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Mr. Stallone, just in case this is the first time you're listening to our show, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sean Kovacs, but not really. And in the past 8 years, I've been connecting superhero movies to you with one person on this middling podcast. And episode 424, Thor Love and Thunder, is no exception, because I'm going to speak to you about Peter S. Elliott, who was one of the 4 editors on Thor Love and Thunder. Peter S. Elliott started his career in the sound department, working on movies that sound like a joke but are not. Movies like Lambada, the movie, and Delta Force 2, the Colombian Connection, and something starring Kate Beckinsale called Shooting Fish, where it feels like a sexy British romp, but I don't know. But because he was paying his dues, he was promoted to the editorial department in movies like Delta Force 3, The Killing Game, Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties, and Think Like a Man. You know, I don't know if anyone would really call that a promotion, but he certainly made more money doing it. I know you know this, Mr. Stallone, but everyone needs their chance, you know, their big break. Like, let's say you're stuck on a middling podcast with 2 gentlemen who can't write a successful joke if their lives depended on it, and all you needed was a chance. You know, all of this is hypothetical. Well, in 2013, Peter S. Elliott got that chance when Marvel reached their collective hands for Peter S. Elliott and said, "Come with us, big guy. We want you to edit Iron Man 3. And that's exactly what he did. And he parlayed that massive break into something that's just extraordinary. Peter S. Elliott would move on to huge blockbuster movies like the Baywatch movie and The War with Grandpa and Think Like a Man 2. Huge movies. But, you know, there's also artistic merit, because Peter S. Elliott isn't just about a paycheck. He believes that at the end of the day, it's about the art. And it looks like old Peter S. Elliott has come a very long way since he worked as an associate editor in 1995 on a movie called Judge Dredd, starring you, Sylvester Stallone. We don't talk about that movie much on this show, mostly because Rob Schneider gets 3rd billing in that movie. And the last time he said something funny was literally in Judge Dredd, your movie. And you know what I learned when I was researching this connection? And by researching, I mean, look at the trivia section on IMDb. Rob Schneider wasn't your first choice to play the role of your sidekick. You actually wanted Joe Pesci, but he turned down the role. I don't know if it would have made much of a difference, but he would have been a really good choice, Mr. Stallone. There you have it. This week's Stallone Connection is editor Peter S. Elliott. I hope to hear from you soon. If you're trying to get in touch with me, my Twitter is @SeanKovacs4, but we all know you're not trying to get in touch with me. Your pal, Sweet Shawnzy from the internet.
Hey, old Dreddy getting the cuppies. All right. Well, here at Here Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. For Thor Love and Thunder, I'll go first with this one. For me, I think I'm a lot along the lines with Tim. Like, you know, high Damian Wayne, low Tim Drake kind of thing. I'll say high Damian, because like maybe I'll like it a little bit more the second time. And you know, it was late, and when I was watching the movie, slightly distracted, but I liked it. I did like it overall. I feel like I may like it another chance. I was just too busy during the week to rewatch it again, but. I wouldn't mind going back to it again to kind of see what maybe I don't want to say missed, but I don't know. Maybe I just feel like a second watching is warranted, at least at this point. What do you think?
Well, you know, here is the thing about this movie, which is that, and we didn't really get into it during the review here, but like the entire movie is based around that Thor chooses love over over work,
Mhm.
basically, and everyone kind of has to make that choice. And Thor chooses love over his duties. Unfortunately, they work it where, he gets both things because he chose correctly. And that's not the way that should go.
No, not usually.
But that, it's a Marvel movie, so he gets both things. Whereas, but that's the choice that is made in this movie. And that's the thing that's grossly overlooked a lot of the time in Marvel movies of like, well, what is this movie actually trying to say? And so it's one of the things that I really like about this movie is that it's actually trying to say something, which is that you have to choose work over your personal life sometimes. And they act, and Thor chose his personal life over his work. And that is a hard decision to make sometimes for some people. And so that's what I like about this movie. And so I even though I don't think it's as great as Thor Ragnarok, because that movie is one of my favorite Marvel movies. This is like a middle Tim Drake. Like this is a good movie. Yeah. It's just not great. It's just good.
And then it's sweet. Hemsworth's kids are all in the movie and everything as well.
That is awesome. That's cool. And his brother's in it again. Yeah. I mean, it's very funny. And we didn't even talk about Sam Neill being in the movie. I mean, he's great at it as Odin. And...
by the way, I was like, the Melissa McCarthy thing, unfortunately, IMDb spoiled for me. And I was just shucks. I really wish that would have been a non-spoiler for me. And I was just, what a bummer that was. But what a great joke. And I love that. I love the performance. I love all of that crap. Yeah. I loved it in the first one. I loved it in this one. So good. And if I was at a show where they did that hammer effect and everything, I'd be like, this ain't that bad.
It's so great.
For in the park sort of stuff.
What did you think of the end credit scenes?
Okay. I forgot what the first middle one was.
Well, the first one is that Zeus is actually not dead and he wants his son to go after Thor. His son being Hercules.
Yeah, so and that's when we got Roy Kent coming in as Hercules. Yes. Which now, okay, some small complaints I've heard from people. You tell me. Obviously, he's not that big a dude, and wouldn't one think Hercules, big dude? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think we're probably going to see a very muscle-bound Roy Kent in a couple of years. Probably is my guess.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like, listen, I mean, when the name was dropped and everything earlier in the film, like, I did kind of raise an eyebrow going like, oh, well, at least here's an avenue that at some point they can go down and be able to point back to this film and see, oh, look at that. We laid that little breadcrumb right there for us to come back and check it all out and everything. And they're like, nope, we're actually going to hit that in the end of this film. And then when we had who it was, cast in it, I'm like, sweet. I'm all about it.
I have a confession to make. The two Marvel characters that I hate the absolute most are Thor and Hercules. So the very simple fact that I love these Thor movies is also a miracle.
Yeah,
because of all of the movies, that made me roll my eyes when Thor was announced. I was like, oh, well, good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
But now we're on our fourth Thor movie.
Unreal. So
and two of which are good.
Hey, 50%, not too shabby. In the world where you have at least three, superhero films, and
I agree. I totally agree.
50%, not bad.
The last end credit scene is Jane showing up to Valhalla, and she runs into Heimdall.
Oh, yes. Okay, I'd kind of forgotten that part. That was kind of nice, little sweet, little nice cameo there and everything, and I like that a lot. And it kind of, I don't know, it's great to give a dead character even one more shot there at the end, and just be like, but for real though, we're cool.
My only fear is that because we're seeing them in Valhalla, that they're going to come out of being dead. And I really, really don't want that.
No, and like there's so many different, avenues and places to explore with all of the stuff that Marvel has available to them. instead of dwelling on things and having, coming back to particular characters and stuff like that, it just feels like moving on would be just a better idea and just doing something else. But at the same time, too, as I say that, there are reports coming out this weekend of photos on the ground in Boston, of all places, where they're shooting a Madam Web movie, and you're like, frickin' why? Mm-hmm. Who's asking for a Madam Web movie?
The producers over at Sony.
Yeah, the Sony producers who, have their heads up their keisters and have no idea what in the heck's going on. But you know who does have an idea? The people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Remember, you guys are voting. Here are your choices. We have The One, Push, Lazarus, Mortal, and Parallel, all available for streaming, and we'll have that up there for Wednesday, and we'll be doing all of that good stuff next week. Sean, in the meantime, where can we find more of work on the internet?
We do a podcast called 30 Questions, where each week we ask 30 questions of some nerdy property. We are in mid-season right now, so we don't have anything to ask questions to, but we will soon enough. Because I don't even know what the next one is. What is our next 30
I am
question?
not even sure. There's so many of these darn things out here nowadays. You're just like, all right, eventually there'll be a Star Wars or a Marvel that comes out. So that'll be whatever the next big one of those is. Like, I want it to be Mandalorian. Is that the next thing no, it's Andor, but I don't think we're going to do an Andor 30 questions.
I will not ask you guys. If you guys say that's what you want to do, then I'll do it, because I'm going to watch the show.
Oh, yeah, we'll watch it to be sure. But like,
I don't want to have what happened where we were trapped with the Kenobi
off
show
about the whole thing and just be like, I don't want to be here anymore.
I'm just trying my best to not sound like the worst human being in the world, just going off for an hour about how awful the show is.
And it's wild to me because, like I said, there are some of the younger demographic were all about the show, and I'm just like, well, I'm glad somebody is digging it.
Man, the Red Letter Media guys love the show. They think it's great.
Huh. Well, that'll do it, everybody. Join us next week for our Patreon vote for Sweet Sean's Kovacs from the internet and the absent Bruce Leslie. I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.